आगे आने से बयान करने वाले की भी दिलचस्पी होती है और फायदा भी होता है। आग जलती है तो उसकी एक रोशनी होती है, एक गर्मी होती है। रोशनी जरूर वाले को ही पहुँचती है, लेकिन गर्मी किसको पहुँचती है? जो करीब में होता है। पहले शिकायत करते थे कि यहाँ इंग्लिश में बयान नहीं होता है। अल्हम्दुलिल्लाह मुफ्ती साहब भी आ गए और दूसरे मौलाना भी आ गए। तो हज़रात बड़ी मेहनत से तैयार करते बयान। आप हज़रात दिलचस्पी के साथ उनके लेक्चर बयान में शरीक फरमा। सब भाइयों से मेरी गुजारिश की जाती है, बयान में शरीक फरमा। सब भाइयों से मेरी गुजारिश की जाती है कि आगे तशरीफ ले।
It's very humbling for a scholar of his caliber to say such words. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala elevate his status. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allow us to take benefit from our senior scholars. It takes great scholarship and piety for somebody to khair. Allah accept. Allah truly accept. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستغفره ونستعينه ونستهديه ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا وسيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله من بعثه الله رحمة للعالمين هاديا ومبشرا ونذيرا بلغ الرسالة وأدى الأمانة ونصح الأمة فجزاه الله عنا خير ما جزى نبيا من أنبيائه صلوات الله وسلامه عليه وعلى كل رسول أرسله. Alhamdulillah, it's the second session of our productive parenting seminar, and in the last session I think the main things that we discussed was specifically to do with the birthrights, the rights that the child has over the parents. Inshallah, we'll be moving forwards from there. Before we do go further, is there any questions regarding the things we covered last time? Sometimes when you've had a bit of chance to think over what was said, sometimes a question formulates, sometimes you get ideas, sometimes something. Is there anything else? No? Bismillah, we'll get started in inshallah. So the first section that we're discussing today is earning and spending from the pure and halal. So when a child enters our home, there's certain responsibilities that fall on the parents. And one of the biggest responsibilities is to financially support this child. And this happens on certain scenarios and certain when an individual gets married, for example, he wants to make sure that he can financially support his spouse, etc. And so a person will sometimes go to certain extents to try and bring money into the home so that he can give a lifestyle to the child that he wasn't himself able to have. And so regarding this, I've got a few narrations, a few verses of the Quran, etc. Abu Hurairah radiallahu ta'ala, he mentions, and Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said, إِنَّ اللَّهَ أَمَرَ الْمُؤْمِنِينَ بِمَا أَمَرَ بِهِ الْمُرْسَلِينَ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He has commanded the believers, He has commanded us exactly as He commanded the prophets. What did He command the prophets? Allah mentions in the Quran, فَقَالَ تَعَالَى يَا أَيُّهَا الرُّسُلُ. Allah addresses directly the prophets and He says, O messengers, all those who have chosen to come with the message of Islam, He addresses them directly and He says, كُلُوا مِنَ الطَّيِّبَاتِ. Eat from that which is pure. وَعْمَلُوا صَالِحًا. And do good deeds. وَقَالَ تَعَالَى. Allah also mentioned, this is the same narration, Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam mentioning, Allah also mentions, يَا أَيُّهَا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا. O you who believe, كُلُوا مِنَ الطَّيِّبَاتِ مَا رَزَقْنَاكُمْ. Eat from the pure of that which we have given you in sustenance. And so Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam is saying, Abu Hurairah narrates, and Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam said, exactly that which Allah commanded the prophets, where He says, Ya ayyuha rusul, kulu min at-tayyibat. O messengers, all those who are the best of creation, kulu min at-tayyibat, eat from the pure. Allah also tells the believers that, you know what? Believers, you are also able to do this, and you should also aspire to do this and aim to do this. He says, Ya alladhina amanu, kulu min tayyibati ma razaqnakum. And so this idea, this concept of eating from the pure, this is extremely important. And then Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam continues this narration and he says, ثُمَّ ذَكَرَ الرَّجُلَ يُطِيلُ السَّفَرِ. There's an individual, imagine, Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam was amazing in the way his pedagogy and his teaching styles, it was amazing. He wouldn't just give you some abstract knowledge, he would then give you an example. And so he gives this example, he says, ذَكَرَ الرَّجُلِ. He makes mention of an individual. Imagine a person, يُطِيلُ السَّفَرِ. He's had a lengthy journey, he's been traveling for a long time. And then أَشْعَثَ أَغْبَرَ. He's in a state of, he's disheveled, his clothes are dirty, his hair's all over the place. This guy's been traveling and desert traveling in the heat. In those days, Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam is saying, imagine what state he's in. يَمُدُّ يَدَيْهِ إِلَى السَّمَاءِ. This individual lifts his hands up to the skies and he's about to make dua. And he says, Ya Rabbi, Ya Rabbi. He's turning to Allah and he's making dua. But what's the issue? Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam says, وَمَطْعَمُهُ haram. His food, his sustenance, that which he has nourished himself with, it's haram. وَمَشْرَبُهُ haram. And that which he has drunk, and that which he has used to quench his thirst, that was also from haram sustenance. وَمَلْبَسُهُ haram. His clothing itself, that is also haram. It's been taken from haram wealth. And he's earned this money in a certain way which was not permissible. And then he's bought his clothes with this. وَمَلْبَسُهُ haram. وَغُذِّيَ بِالْحَرَامِ. And he has, his whole life he's been nourished with haram and he's been brought up with this haram. فَأَنَّا يُسْتَجَابُ لَهُ. How is it possible that Allah will accept this individual's dua? And Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam is giving us this thing. Many people ask that, I want my du'as to be accepted. How should I become mustajabu da'awat, where my du'as are responded to? One of the primary things for an individual's dua to be accepted is the sustenance that one acquires. Sometimes alhamdulillah, we're very meticulous when it comes to meat. And we'll say it has to be halal, it has to be this company, it has to be that company, I have to have this label or this badge. We're very focused on making sure our food and the meat is halal. But we should also focus on the source of income. At the money that I'm making, that should also be halal. Not just the money can come from wherever, but I'll make sure my meat is halal. No. Our sustenance should also be halal, and what we buy should also be halal. And so Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam says, فَأَنَّا يُسْتَجَابُ لَهُ. It's very important that we address this discussion, that Islam has laid an immense amount of emphasis, a massive emphasis on spending in charity. Right? This is an important point that I have to mention over here specifically for the family members. Islam really does promote giving in charity, and you'll see this in all the nusus and all the Qur'an and Ahadith, this constant idea of giving in charity. And I think I mentioned last week as well, Sahaba were not men and individuals who had a lot of money, but you'd always hear that they gave this and they gave that and they gave this. But Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam has also mentioned that there is no charity greater than the spending on one's own family. And this is where we need to understand this point. And there's a number of reasons. One of them is that a level of ikhlas and pure sincerity in spending on your family. If there's an event taking place and the masjid is full and the brothers are asking, gee brothers, donate. When you stand up and you say, gee brother, I will donate £1,000 for example, or £500 or £100 or £50 or even £1. Right? There's a level of riyah possibly. You might feel that, oh, people saw me make this pledge and I'm going to give this money. But spending on your family, that's pure ikhlas. Nobody sees you spending on your family. Nobody sees the gifts that you buy for your family members. Nobody sees that, today my son did this well in school, my son did this well in madrasa, let me buy him something extra special. Nobody from outside sees this. And so one of the main reasons that the charity that you spend at home is because there's a pure level of ikhlas. That I'm going to do this for Allah. I'm going to buy this gift for my son or my daughter or for my wife or for my husband for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Another reason is no one else is going to come and spend on your family. Is somebody going to come and spend on your family and say, let me buy this gift for you, let me buy this gift for you. And so you are taking care of a group of individuals that Allah has made you dependent over. Allah has given you responsibilities. When I say dependent over, Allah has made you responsible. Right? And Allah has given you this responsibility that you take care of these individuals and that you show them not just financial support but also emotional support. You show them psychological support, and that's responsibilities that us guys have. We're always talking about the responsibilities on the female side, but we also have these major responsibility. Abu Hurairah radiallahu ta'ala anhu, he mentions in the hadith of Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, and Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam again, he shows this. And he anfaqtahu fi sabilillah. There is a dinar, there is a gold coin, or some charity that you have given in the path of Allah. Fi sabilillah in those days would be in jihad. The Muslims were going to battle. They were either defending themselves or they were attacking individuals who were causing problems. And you spent charity there. So keep that in mind. There's fi sabilillah. Dinarun anfaqtahu fi raqabatin. There is that money that you spend on freeing a slave. Again, Freeing a slave had massive rewards in Islam. And so Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam was saying, keep this in mind as well. وَدِينَارٌ تَصَدَّقْتَ بِهِ عَلَى مِسْكِينٍ. And then there's poor person in your community. You spend a dinar on him, right? And dinar أنفقته على أهلك. And there's the dinar, the money that you spend on your family. So 4 different types of charity. Charity number 1, the one that you spend in the path of Allah, the one that you spend on to free the slave, the one that you spend upon the miskin, the poor person, the person who has absolutely nothing, not a penny to his name, and the dinar that you spend on your family. What would most of us think? If we had £5 in our pocket and I gave you the option, go spend this £5 on one of your children, or go spend this £5 in sadaqah in the masjid box, what would we say? Masjid box. What does Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam say? أَعْظَمُهَا أَجْرًا. أَعْظَمُهَا, the most virtuous in terms of reward, the greatest, أَعْظَم, the greatest in reward, the الَّذِي أَنْفَقْتَهُ عَلَى أَهْلِكَ, is the one that you spend on your family. This is Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam saying this, and it's Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam rewiring our thinking. That just because you have this assumption that spending money in the path of Allah, this is only the path of Allah, no. Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam gave major emphasis on spending on your family members, and the money would naturally have to be halal. It's a narration mentions from Abu Hurairah radiallahu ta'ala, أَيُّهَا النَّاسِ إِنَّ اللَّهَ طَيِّبٌ. Allah Himself is pure. لَا يَقْبَلُ إِلَّا طَيِّبًا. And He does not accept that which is pure. Allah wants you to spend from your pure wealth in His path. فَقَدْ حَرَّمَ اللَّهُ الرِّبَى وَالْغَشَّ وَالسَّرَقَ وَالْخِدَاعَ وَالْغَصَبَ. The scholar, he mentions that Allah has made haram, and just a few ideas. We're not going into finance over here, and we're not doing a discussion on finance, but Allah mentions حَرَّمَ اللَّهُ الرِّبَى. Some of the things that Allah has made haram is interest, وَالْغَشَّ وَالسَّرَقَ وَالْخِدَاعَ وَالْغَصَبَ. Taking somebody's wealth without their permissions, stealing, theft, deceiving somebody, tricking somebody. وَجَمِيعُ مَا حَرَّمَ اللَّهُ وَرَسُولَهُ فَإِنَّهُ لَا يَجُوزُ لِلْإِنسَانِ الَّذِي يُؤْمِنُ بِاللَّهِ وَالْيَوْمِ الْآخِرِ. It is inconceivable, it is unthinkable that somebody who believes in Allah and somebody who believes in His Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam, أَن يَقْتَرِبَ مِنْهُ, that he even goes close to some of these avenues. An individual who believes in Allah and His Rasul, they are very cautious that, you know what, this money that I'm going to get, in essence, this pure innocent child is going to be fed from this. And the effects that this money can have, it's Allah knows best. And so, فَإِنَّ اللَّهَ لَا يَقْبَلُ مِنْهُ عَدْلًا وَلَا صَرْفًا. And so, that's the point. And I go as far as saying, forget the acceptance of good deeds. This individual, he's preparing himself a place in the fire of Jahannam. When an individual doesn't earn from the halal, and wallahi, it's not fun for me to sit here and say these things. But I say this purely because there are innocent children, and these individuals are dependent on us, and we have this responsibility that we give them this upbringing, which is not only spiritually, which is not only an academic upbringing, but it's also morally, ethically correct upbringing. Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam mentions in a hadith, Jabir ibn Abdullah radiallahu ta'ala, great Sahabi, he narrates that he says, Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam said, قال لكعب بن عجرة رضي الله عنه, he said to Ka'b ibn Ujra, a Sahabi by the name of Ka'b ibn Ujra, he says, لا يدخل الجنة من نبت لحمه من سحت النار أولى به. That an individual whose body has been nourished from haram, نبت لحمه, that literally translates as his flesh has formed, meaning he has nourished himself with haram min suhtin, النار أولى به. The fire is more not preferred, but the fire is something which is more which reciprocates better to this individual, which is something which is a more valid response to this individual. And so not only has he damaged himself in this world, but he is also sinful for every penny his children will spend from the haram, even after his death. Abdullah ibn Mas'ud radiallahu ta'ala, he mentions in the hadith of Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam, لا يكسب عبد مالا حراما. That it's an individual who earns some haram wealth, فيتصدق به, and he spends it, فيقبل منه, يعني لا يكسب فيقبل منه. He does not spend from this haram wealth in sadaqah, in charity, except that it's not accepted from him. It's not accepted from him. ولا ينفق منه فيبارك له فيه. And everything he spends from it, there's no barakah in that. Barakah isn't this concept where I have £5 in my pocket and it lasts a really good time. That's one of the definitions of barakah. Everyone's always asking, what's barakah? It's not the fact that you have £5 and you can end up buying £15 worth of goods with it. That is one explanation. But the primary best explanations for barakah is that the money that you have, Allah gives you the ability to spend it in halal and in tayyib and in that which is good. And wallahi, that's an amazing gift from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That my body, barakah in my body and blessing in my body, is that Allah allows me to use in those acts which benefit me. Blessings and barakah in my wealth is that Allah gives me the ability to use my wealth in that which benefits my akhirah, and that benefits my dunya and my akhirah. The blessings in children is that Allah uses them and makes them a means of my increasing in my Jannah, and Allah giving me barakah in my Jannah. The hadith finishes off, وَلَا يَتْرُكُهُ خَلْفَ ظَهْرِهِ. He doesn't leave children behind except this money that you earn. إِلَّا كَانَ زَادَهُ إِلَى النَّارِ. It becomes a means for me to go into the fire of Jahannam. This money that I left behind, all this wealth that I amassed. And again, we're, at the end of the day, it's a very selfless reason. We're not doing it to make a lot of money. We're doing it to assist our children and to give them a better chance in life. And so, anyway, Sheikh. Oh, sorry, I thought you had a question. It's okay. If you do have a question, you can ask. But there's ways that a person can bring barakah into their life. I'll mention a few. Hakim ibn Hizam radiallahu ta'ala mentions, Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam mentioned, Al-bayyani bil-khiyar ma lam yatafarraqa. That's something to do with business transactions. That's not the point. فَإِن صَدَقَا وَبَيَّنَا بُورِكَ لَهُمَا فِي بَيْعِهِمَا. When you do business with an individual, and when you go do dealings with somebody, sadaqah, if you are truthful and you are honest, وَبَيَّنَا, and you clarify things, you don't cause confusion and you don't hide certain defects and all of these things, and بُورِكَ لَهُمَا فِي بَيْعِهِمَا, Allah will grant barakah in this person's wealth. Now, this is hard for us to understand in today's context, but in all our dealings. So I'll give you an example. You ask your muftis in this regard, and ask the scholars in this regard, the senior scholars. But I will say things like coupons, right? I personally don't get a coupon, but I then go on the internet and I look for a coupon to get X% off, this much of a bonus, this much of a discount. Yes, if that coupon was given to me and I use it, khair, of course. But then going to find a coupon which is not yours to use and using somebody else, when you're going to travel or something like that, using somebody else's card or something like that, their rail card or something like that, the ideas fall into this. And Allah shows us this, that remember, badahir, it looks like you're losing wealth. And Allah gives us this analogy in riba. He says it looks like, when you take interest, it looks like you're making money. But Allah says, يَمْحَقُ اللَّهُ الرِّبَى. Allah destroys. Yamhaq is a very powerful word. Allah destroys the wealth of riba. يَمْحَقُ اللَّهُ الرِّبَى وَيُرْبِي الصَّدَقَاتِ. Charity looks like I'm losing. But what does Allah say? And I always say this. When Allah says something, He doesn't need to emphasize. He doesn't need to say, Wallahi and Tallahi and Billahi. Allah's word is true. Allah's word is haqq. And Allah says, Yurbi sadaqat. Give charity, Allah will increase you. And so these ideas, sometimes we look at the asbab. Sometimes we look at the means, that if I do this, money will come in. And if I do that, money will go. So avoid that and go for this. But don't look at asbab. Look at musabbibul asbab, the creator of the asbab, the creator of the means. Right? Ibrahim alayhi salatu wasalam, he's about to get thrown into this fire. What you ask any child, and you ask him, what's the function of fire? He'll tell you it burns. It's hot and it burns, and it's obviously they'll say don't put your finger in it, let alone put yourself inside it. And the whole world in Ibrahim alayhi salam's time said, of course, fire burns. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when He instructed, Ibrahim alayhi salam was thrown into this fire. But what happened to the fire for Ibrahim alayhi salam? Allah commanded the fire, Kuni bardan wa salaman ala Ibrahim. Become cool and become safe for Ibrahim alayhi salatu wasalam. The asbab and everything, the zahir tells you that this actual fire should burn. But Allah made it cool and safe for Ibrahim alayhi salatu wasalam. And the narrations mentioned, the scholars mentioned to the extent that this fire had been blazing for 40 plus days. And it was so hot that birds flying over the top would due to the heat, get burnt and fall inside. This was the extreme heat. And to the extent that they couldn't keep adding fuel to this fire from close, they had to do it from a distance. It's Allah who has the asbab in His hands. The narrations mention that when Ibrahim alayhi salam went to slaughter Ismail alayhi salam's throat, as the command of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, some scholars go as far as mentioning that the knife actually rubbed on the throat of Ismail alayhi salatu wasalam. Ask any child, what's the objective of a knife? It's to cut. But Allah removed this quwwatus salb. Allah did salb, and He extracted this quality of cutting from this knife. And so asbab are something for us to see. But we have to remember that if Allah doesn't want something to happen, Allah will not make it happen. And this is, wallahi, this is about tawakkul. This is about my belief in Allah. And when I have this belief in Allah, that when my Allah tells me that sadaqah will bring blessings, it will bring blessings. And I've mentioned to you, what do I mean by sadaqah? Don't go away with this idea, sadaqah is I have to put it in the box. Sadaqah can be the money you spend on your family. When you go shopping, have this intention of sadaqah. Wallahi, that's sadaqah. You're buying a loaf of bread and you're buying milk. If you were living on your own, you wouldn't buy the big milk, you'd buy the small milk. But because you're with children, you're buying a big milk. That is sadaqah on your children. When you're buying your ice pops and your ice creams and your lollies and these things, this is sadaqah. Have that intention. Right? Allah will give barakah in our wealth, inshallah. And so, honesty in your transactions. Another hadith Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam mentions, I don't want to take too much time on this subject, but man kanat ad-dunya hamma. That individual who makes this dunya his objective. Man kanat ad-dunya hamma, he's made the dunya his objective and his purpose of living. Farraqa Allahu alayhi amra. Allah will scatter his affairs. Farraqa Allah will scatter his affairs. Allah will put his, he'll put, 10 over here, and put some of his work over here, some of his money over there. Allah will put everywhere. فرق الله ولم يأته من الدنيا إلا وجعل فقره بين عينيه. Allah will put poverty constantly in his mind. I had £5 yesterday, and he'll check his bank balance. I've only got this much at the end of the week, and all these things. Allah says that you make the dunya your objective, and this is what will happen. And Allah then says to you, وَلَمْ يَأْتِهِ مِنَ الدُّنْيَا إِلَّا مَا كُتِبَ. Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam says, nothing from this dunya, إِلَّا مَا كُتِبَ لَهُ, except that which was written for him. But Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam wasn't an individual who came to give you doom and say, yeah, no, Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam chose the flip side. وَمَنْ كَانَتِ الْآخِرَةُ نِيَّتَهُ, the individual who makes the akhirah his objective. You know what? My child needs to survive in this dunya, and so he needs to work, he needs to have an education, but his objective is the akhirah. A person who makes this his objective, جَمَعَ اللَّهُ لَهُ أَمْرًا. When you think about this in the Arabic language, جَمَعَ اللَّهُ, Allah himself will do the gathering. Allah will gather his affairs. Allah will piece his life like a jigsaw and make things right. وَجَعَلَ غِنَاهُ فِي قَلْبِهِ. Allah will enrich his heart. Allah doesn't say he'll fill your bank balance. Allah doesn't say he'll fill your pockets. Allah doesn't say he'll give you the most comfortable of mattresses. Because in essence, these are asbab. True enrichment and true pleasure, true happiness is in the heart. جَعَلَ غِنَاهُ فِي قَلْبِهِ. Allah will put independence in his heart. Allah will put this maza and this lutf and this enjoyment in his heart. وَأَتَتْهُ الدُّنْيَا وَهِيَ رَاغِمَةٌ. And the dunya will come to this individual, and the dunya will be in a state of humiliation. Allah will bring this dunya to us. These are words of Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, and they are the truth. Very quickly to finish off for the sake of barakah, because many people ask regarding barakah. That's not the purpose of this talk, but I'll mention dua. Make plenty of dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Request Allah that Allah grants us barakah. Allahumma ghfirli warhamni wa'afini wahdini warzuqni. You can even ask Allahumma barikli. And there's loads of du'as. It doesn't have to be in Arabic, even in Urdu, even in English, even in whatever our languages, whatever we speak. Turn to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah say, Allah, I only ask you because I have no one else to ask. And genuinely, who do we have to ask? And so we turn to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and in reality, we don't even need to ask Allah. Put your hands up and say to Allah, Allah, you know my issues, you know my problems, you know my problems better than I know my problems. I think X, Y, and Z is my problem, but in actual fact, A, B, C is my problem. Allah, you know my problems. Allah, I turn to you because I need you. I am in need of you. You know, I was mentioning to the sisters today in the tafsir of قُلْ أَعُوذُ بِرَبِّ الْفَلَقِ and قُلْ أَعُوذُ بِرَبِّ النَّاسِ, that Allah could have just said, أَعُوذُ بِرَبِّ الْفَلَقِ. That, O Nabi of Allah, I want you to go and say, I seek protection in Allah. But why does Allah say, قُلْ? Why does Allah say to Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, go and say it? Because even if Allah didn't say to Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, go say this, He would have said it. But the reason Allah says, قُلْ, is because Allah is saying, it's not sufficient for you to just know that I need Allah's protection. قُلْ, announce it to the world that I need my Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I am dependent of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Dua. Another means of barakah is marriage. There are a number of hadith, inshallah, around February time. We also have a marriage seminar and all of these things. We'll be discussing that. I know we did it in reverse. It should have been marriage first and then the parenting, but there was a real request for the parenting, so we did that first. But marriage brings barakah. Marriage really brings barakah. Building ties with your family and your kinship. Building ties with your family relatives. This increases in barakah in one's age, in one's wealth. Allah brings barakah in that. If there's a family member that you don't speak to, or there's a family member, and I'll be honest with you, 90% of the time, it's always their fault. But you have to be the bigger person. You have to be the bigger person, and you have to go to them and make sulah. Nobody's saying that, become best friends, and nobody's saying, but be family. Kunu ibadallahi ikhwana. Become brothers and sisters unto one another. And so build your ties of kinship with your family. If somebody's going away, give them a call. If somebody comes back, go meet them. We used to have this concept back in the day where if something was made in your house, you'd send it in a bowl and send it to your family members. And then they would feel shame in sending that same bowl empty. And so they would make something and they would send it back as well. This love, this muhabba. It's a hadith of Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, tahaddu, tahabbu. That, give gifts and you will increase in love between yourselves. And so this is a massive means of barakah as well. Salah, 5 times salah, bil jama'ah, in the masjid. This will increase in barakah and shukr. لَإِن شَكَرْتُمْ لَأَزِيدَنَّكُمْ. Allah says, and it's beautiful the way Allah words this verse. لَإِن شَكَرْتُمْ لَأَزِيدَنَّكُمْ. You see the la and the la? It's linking. Allah says, لَإِن شَكَرْتُمْ. If you do shukr, لَأَزِيدَنَّكُمْ. Then definitely I will increase you. And that's not just increase you in quantity, Allah will increase you in quality. Allah will increase you in quality. And so quality can mean that you might be struggling for your working right now. Allah will give you an easier job. But you'll get that same amount. And then Allah goes further. وَلَئِن كَفَرْتُمْ إِنَّ عَذَابِي لَشَدِيدٌ. Allah doesn't say وَلَئِن كَفَرْتُمْ وَلَا. He doesn't say it like that. He says وَلَئِن كَفَرْتُمْ. And if you do not show appreciation and you don't show gratitude, just remember, إِنَّ عَذَابِي لَشَدِيدٌ. My punishment is severe. But He doesn't say your ingratitude will definitely necessitate a punishment. And that's beautiful of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He says, لَإِن شَكَرْتُمْ. If you do shukr and you show gratitude, لَأَزِيدَنَّكُمْ. A direct correlation and a direct result of that is I will increase you. But وَلَإِن كَفَرْتُمْ. If you don't show gratitude, just remember, إِنَّ عَذَابِي لَشَدِيدٌ. That my punishment is severe. Ajib, the way Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala works. And so that's kind of the rough idea regarding earning and stuff. One of my best chapters now, when we discuss the parenting and these things, is the prophetic approach of love and affection. Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam, ajib, the individual he was, the love and the mercy, rahmatun lil alameen he was, and the way you see this into the Sahaba, and you will see a story of Hazrat Umar radiallahu ta'ala, which will ajib. We'll just get straight into it, inshallah. The most effective approach in the upbringing of children is with love and affection. Wallahi, it's with love and affection. A harsh and offensive approach very rarely yields beneficial results. And some narrations, Aisha radiallahu ta'ala mentions that regarding Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, قال, Ya Aisha, Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam is talking to Aisha. Aisha radiallahu ta'ala says, Inna Allah rafiqun. Allah is loving. Allah is rafiq. Allah is kind. Allah is gentle. Allah is merciful. Yuhibbur rifq. And He loves love. He loves affection. Allah loves affection. وَيُعْطِي عَلَى الرِّفْقِ. And Allah gives upon affection مَا لَا يُعْطِي عَلَى الْعُنْفِ. Allah gives upon affection that which He does not give upon harshness. A person who is he shows affection, an individual who shows affection, Allah will give him results which He will not give. وَلَا يُعْطِي عَلَى الْعُنْفِ. Which He doesn't give on an individual who is harsh. And so a person should always adopt an approach of love and affection. فَقَالَ لِي. And as Aisha radiallahu ta'ala mentions, Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said to me, Ya Aisha, O Aisha, irfiqi, show love and show affection. فَإِنَّ الرِّفْقَ لَمْ يَكُنْ فِي شَيْءٍ قَدْتُ إِلَّا زَانَهُ. That love and affection is not placed in anything, إِلَّا زَانَهُ, except it beautifies it. It beautifies it. وَلَا نُزِعَ مِنْ شَيْءٍ. And love and affection is not extracted from anything, قَدْتُ إِلَّا شَانَهُ, except that it spoils it, it destroys it. Whether it's your interactions with people, whether it's the way you deal with your children, your child does something wrong, your child needs to be given some sort of consequences. But there's an approach there as well. There's an approach. Sometimes you have to take a stern approach. But when you can suffice with the love and the affection, a person should, and we'll discuss that a little further on. Abdullah ibn Amr ibn As radiallahu ta'ala anhu, he says, and now alayhi salatu wasalam, قال Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said, Ar-Rahimuna yarhamuhum ar-Rahman. Beautiful hadith. That Ar-Rahimun, those who show love and those who show mercy and those who show compassion, ar-Rahman. The Rahman, the being who is Ar-Rahman, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will show mercy to this individual. Who here can say that they are not in need of the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Allah is saying, show mercy, and I am willing to show mercy to you. Irhamu man fil ard. Show mercy to the individuals who live on the earth. Yarhamukum man fis sama, wa yarhamkum man fis sama. At the individual in the heavens, He will show mercy to you. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, he was in a time where the Arabs were living, and the Arabs would look at mercy and compassion as a weakness. That they would see harshness, and they would walk into the home and the children would go quiet and the wife would go quiet. This was no approach. Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam showed, and he wouldn't shy away from this in a context that he was living in. He would make sure the Sahaba appreciated that love and compassion is extremely important. Abu Hurairah radiallahu ta'ala mentions, قال قبل رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم الحسن بن علي. Hassan ibn Ali, Ali radiallahu ta'ala had a son, Hassan Hussein. When Hassan in the company of Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, Abu Huraira mentions that he was on Saturday and he saw Hassan come. Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam قبله. Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam kissed him. وعنده الأقرع ibn Habis التميمي. أقرع ibn Habis التميمي, he was a companion. أقرع, he was sat there and he saw this and he saw Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam kissing this individual. فقال الأقرع, أقرع said, إن لي 10 من الولد. I have 10 children. ما قبلت أحدا منهم. I have never kissed any of them. فنظر إليه رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم. Nabi صلى الله عليه وسلم, the Mubarak gaze and the blessed eyes of Nabi صلى الله عليه وسلم turned to Aqra. And Nabi صلى الله عليه وسلم looked at Aqra and he said to him, من لا يرحم لا يرحم. An individual who doesn't show mercy, an individual who doesn't show love, he will not have love shown to him. This was Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the way he interacted with children, the way he interacted with the youngsters. Abu Qatada al-Ansari radiyallahu ta'ala, kana yusalli, he would read salah. And again, really remove all these ideas that we have in our minds. What is salah? Salah is your interaction with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Who was more devoted to the interaction with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala than Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam? Who can say that my salah is more closer to Allah and I am in more of a connection with Allah than Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam? Nobody. But Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam kana yusalli, he would read salah, وهو حامل أمامة بنت زينب بنت رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم. And so whilst he was reading salah and he would go into sajda, then فإذا سجد, okay, so whilst he was reading salah, one of the children of Zainab, the daughter of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, she would be playing. She would be playing whilst Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam was reading salah. And when Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam would go, she would hang on to Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam and she would play with Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And when Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam would go into sajda, وضعها, he would gently place her on the ground. Whilst he's in salah, she's jumping on him and she's playing with Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Whilst he's in salah, he would gently place her on the ground. وإذا قام, and this is the amazing thing, when he would stand up again, حملها, he himself would lift her back up to him and he would carry on his salah. Ajib, Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam is interacting, but he's also showing us that, when your children come and play and they're running around and you're reading your salah, don't have a tawbah, astaghfirullah, move, salah, he's playing. No, that shouldn't be our approach. Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam didn't do that. The children, when they see you interacting in salah, they will try and copy you. They want to emulate you. Children love what the parents do and they love to copy you. And so if you give them that space, imagine every time you put the musalla out, the child thinks, oh no, I can't go, I'm going to get in trouble if I go here. And he runs into the other room. Imagine what kind of an effect that has on the child. But every time you put the musalla out and the child thinks, oh, it's time for me to play with my father, it's time for me to play with my mother, and they come and they play around whilst you're reading salah, they're hearing you, Subhana Rabbi al-A'la, Sami'allahu liman hamida, Allahu Akbar. These blessed phrases are going into this child's mind. The child is hearing these things. What an effect it will have on the children. And so Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam shows this practically. Abdullah ibn Shaddad ibn al-Had an Abihi قال, this Sahabi mentions, بينما رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم يصلي بالناس. Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam was in public, in the masjid reading salah. Everybody's present in front of him, he's reading salah in the masjid. إذ جاءه الحسين, Hussein radiallahu anhu, the son of Ali radiallahu anhu, he comes, فركب عنقه وهو ساجد. He climbed onto the neck of Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He hung on to the neck of Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam whilst Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam was in sajda. Can you imagine the Sahaba were there and Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam is in sajda and Hussein, this little child, is hanging onto the neck of Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Did the Sahaba go and grip the child and say, this is Nabi of Allah, what are you doing? Let him pray salah, he's conversing with Allah. No. فَأَطَالَ السُّجُودِ بِالنَّاسِ. He was leading the people in salah. Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam was the imam whilst this was happening. فَأَطَالَ السُّجُودِ. He lengthened his sajda bin nas, for the people. Everybody was in sajda. The Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam extended his sajda because as Hussein radiallahu ta'ala was there. Hatta dhannu. Imagine now, this statement shocks me every single time. How long did Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam extend his sajda? Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam sajda, how long? Hatta dhannu, the Sahaba started thinking, annahu qad hadatha amrun. They started thinking that Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam has passed away. He spent so long in sajda for Hazrat Hussein to continue playing. حتى ظنوا, the Sahaba were under the assumption أنه قد حدث أمر. And even then, those that understand Arabic will understand the beauty of this statement. حدث أمر. They didn't say قد مات, he's passed away. حدث أمر, the inevitable has occurred. They were thinking the inevitable has occurred. فلما قضى صلاة, when Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam finished his salah, قالوا, they said, أطلت السجود يا رسول الله, O Nabi of Allah. Because Sahaba were people who wanted to learn. They were men who wanted to learn. O Nabi of Allah, you did a very long sajda. Is everything okay? حتى ظننا أنه قد حدث أمر. We thought that on a messenger of Allah he passed away. فقال إن ابني قد ارتحلني. My dear child over here, Hussein, he hung on to me. ارتحلني, he climbed onto me. فكرهت أن أعجله حتى يقضي حاجته. It displeased me that I rush him whilst he was enjoying himself. Ajib, Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. This is Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, and when we speak of Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, he was the greatest man to come on this earth, the greatest of role models. And we've made it into something where salah is something where, you know, a child comes close and we push him away, or we shove him away. And Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, the person who had the most concentration in salah, he had this ajib connection with Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala, but even he showed this compassion to this child, to children. Khalid, bint Khalid ibn Sa'id, she mentions, أتيت رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم, I came to Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, مع أبي, I came with my father, وعلي قميص أصفر. Beautiful narration. She says, I had a yellow dress on. قميص أصفر, I had a yellow dress on. فقال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم, سنة. Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam said the word sana. These aren't actually Arabic words. So this woman, Khalid bint Khalid bin Sa'id, she was actually from Habasha. She was from Abyssinia. And in the Abyssinian tongue, the word sana means beautiful. The word sana means beautiful. And so Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam was sat there. This young girl walks in. This infant child walks in with this yellow dress on, and Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam speaks in her language, the Abyssinian language, that says sana. Oh, how beautiful, subhanallah. Abdullah, وهي بالحبشية حسنة. So the narrator mentions, because most of the people reading this would probably be Arabs, so he says, what does sana mean? وهي بالحبشية, it's in the Abyssinian language, and it means hasana, it means beautiful. قالت, this girl says, فذهبت ألعب بخاتم النبوة. I then started playing with the back of Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. I started playing on the back of Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. Can you imagine the scholars of today, not to look down at them, but myself, for example, I'm a student, as Misa here, would a child be able to walk in and start playing around with me? Would a child be able to come in and I interact with them in a way that they feel comfortable, that they can, play a game with me, or flex with me, or chill with me? Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, despite being the Nabi of Allah, despite being the leader of the Sahaba, the companions, the children had this love with him and they could play with him. And it shows that you can reach whatever status you want. You won't reach a status higher than Nabi of Allah. You won't reach higher than the status of Rasul of Allah. But Nabi of Allah and Rasul of Allah, children could interact with him. Children could play with him. And she started playing with فَزَجَّرَنِي أَبِي. Yes, one of us was sat there. She says that the father said, don't do that, astaghfirullah. So Nabi of Allah, stop playing with him. قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم, Nabi صلى الله عليه وسلم, دعها, leave her, let her be. ثم قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم, أبلي وأخلقي ثم أبلى وأخلقي ثم أبلى وأخلق. قال عبد الله فبقيت حتى ذكر يعني من بقائه. Abli actually means he was referring to it was a dua Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam made. Abli wa akhliqi, it basically means may Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala make some scholars have interpreted it as may Allah make your dress old. Abli, may Allah make your dress become old. Wa akhliqi, and it has a similar meaning. فبقيت حتى ذكر يعني من بقائها. It's a dua which Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam made of blessings. And it basically means that may Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala extend the time span of this dress, which would be interpreted as may Allah give you a long life, or may Allah keep you happy. That's the interpretation that scholars have mentioned. Aisha radiallahu ta'ala mentions in a hadith, جاء عربي, a Bedouin came to Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, فقال تقبلون الصبيان فما نقبلهم. And O Nabi of Allah, you kiss the youngsters, you kiss children. Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam would kiss the foreheads of children when they would come out of love and affection. فما نقبلهم, we don't kiss them. Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam said, أو أملك لك أن نزع الله من قلبك الرحمة. But do I have any power and ability if Allah, basically what can I do if Allah has extracted a rahmah from your heart? If Allah has taken this rahmah, and wallahi there's nothing shy. I would say it adds to the masculinity of a man to be able to have this confidence to kiss his daughter, to kiss his son in public, right? And when you have a relationship with your children like this, they don't feel embarrassed that my dad's kissing me in public. They don't feel embarrassed my dad's come to pick me up in public, because we didn't treat it as something which is embarrassing. It's actually something which is sharaf for them. And I don't know if this is a place to mention it, but wallahi, when the Khabib fight took place, and Khabib mentioned after he won the fight, and he mentioned afterwards, he goes, when I go home, my dad's going to smash me. For a person who's just taken down one of the highest individuals in the UFC, and he's just won this individual, for him to have this courage, and for him to have this, who he is, and for him to say, when I go home, my dad's going to smash me. We reach the age of 12, 13, 14, and we say, what can my dad do to me? What's my dad going to do? This guy's reached the pinnacle of his career in UFC. He's one of the hardest men you could say alive, and he says, when I go home, I know my dad's going to smash me. Honestly, that's what it is. And that's when you have a signal. I've got over 45 minutes, but inshallah, I'll try and speed things up. There's a couple of, anyway, from these narrations, we can appreciate the love Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam had for children and the efforts he would go through just to bring a smile on their faces. Truly, these weren't children that were the sons and daughters of Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. These were interactions with children of other individuals. An Abyssinian child has walked in who has nothing to do with Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, but Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam interacted with love and affection. This naturally has a positive impact on the child. They would reciprocate with love and affection. When you then tell them to read Salah, and they've been running around you while you're reading Salah, they want to emulate the mother and the father. Of course they do. Children's biggest role model is the mother and the father. And so they will not only just say, yes, I want to join, they'll cooperate willingly, and they'll be seen as friends. And I have to mention the story I mentioned about Hazrat Umar ibn Khattab radiallahu ta'ala anhu. Sahaba took these, they saw Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, and they saw the way Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam interacted with children, and how did it affect them? You know, when we speak of Umar radiallahu ta'ala, what do we say? أشدهم في أمر الله عمر. When we stand on the mihrab and the mimbar and the bayan takes place in Jum'ah, and we say أشدهم في أمر الله عمر, the most severe when it came to the commands of Allah was Umar ibn al-Khattab radiallahu ta'ala. And we hear his stories, how he was scary and he was this and he was that. And then we hear the stories of Umar radiallahu ta'ala, when shaitan is walking, a narration mentions, when shaitan walks on a path and he sees Umar walking on that path, he changes his paths. He says, I can walk on any path, but Umar, I'm not walking on his path. This is Umar ibn al-Khattab radiallahu ta'ala, but what do we hear about his soft side and his affectionate side towards children? Just listen to this story. فَقَدْ دَخَلَ عَلَيْهِ أَحَدُ عُمَّالِهِ. One of his leaders, as Umar radiallahu ta'ala, when he was the leader of the believers, he had some individuals who had made responsible for certain places, for certain areas, for certain places. So فَدَخَلَ عَلَيْهِ أَحَدُ عُمَّالِهِ وَوُلَاتِهِ. One of his leaders came, one of his viziers, one of his responsible individuals came, and he came into the house. فَوَجَدَ عُمَرْ مُسْتَلْقِيًا عَلَى ظَهْرِهِ. And he saw, when he walked into the Umar radiallahu anhu is lying on his back. وَصِبْيَانُهُ يَلْعَبُونَ حَوْلَهُ. And the children in his home are running around, playing around him. The children are playing. فَأَنْكَرَ عَلَيْهِ سُكُوتُهُ عَلَى لَعْبِ الْأَطْفَالِ مِنْ حَوْلِهِ. This individual who walked in, this one of his main men walked in, and you could see on his face, these kids are playing around Umar. What kind of man is Umar? He made a bit of a face. Umar radiallahu ta'ala noticed straight away, this guy's got something's up. So فَسَأَلَهُ Umar asked him, كَيْفَ أَنْتَ مَعَ أَهْلِكَ? Umar clicked on straight away. Umar radiallahu ta'ala was very smart. Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, the praise Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam mentioned regarding him, and another time inshallah I'll mention. But he straight away clicked on and he goes, كَيْفَ أَنْتَ مَعَ أَهْلِكَ? How are you with your family? Because Umar knew, okay, this guy's got an issue with the way the kids are playing. So how do you treat your children? He says, he responds, إِذَا دَخَلْتُ, when I enter the home, سَكَتَ النَّاطِقُ. The person who's speaking goes quiet. You know, if somebody's speaking and I walk into, khalas, they all go quiet. Everybody goes quiet when I walk into them. They know the boss is here. I'm the man of the house when I walk in. فَقَالَ لَهُ Umar ibn al-Khattab, radiyallahu ta'ala, wallahi, may Allah be pleased with him, he says, اِعْتَزِلْ عُمَّالَنَا. اعتزل in our language, P45, you're fired. You're fired. اعتزل عمالنا. Leave from my ranks. I don't need an individual like you. فإنك لا ترفق بأهلك وولدك. You don't show love and affection to your family. فكيف ترفق بأمة محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم. How in the world will you show muhabba and love to the ummah of Nabi صلى الله عليه وسلم? You can't show love and affection to your own family. How are you going to show love to somebody outside? We hear about Umar radiallahu ta'ala being أشدهم في أمر الله Umar, but how was he in the home? And this is the reality. We end this discussion on Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, his affection with children. Wallahi, this is a fraction of the life of Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. Imagine we were genuinely to do a deep deep study into the life of Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, his interactions with non-Muslims, with interactions with Muslims, interactions with family members, interactions with sinners, interactions with every facet of the community, would we not have an individual? Why then we understand when Allah says, لَقَدْ كَانَ فِي رَسُولِ اللَّهِ أُسْوَةٌ حَسَنَةٌ. Love is emphasis. Qad is another level of emphasis. Most definitely, lakum, for you, for every single one of you, fi rasulillahi uswatun hasana, is the most perfect in the life of Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. Do we read these verses and think, he must be a man? We truly believe it, and we do believe it, but do we understand it? Do we look into his life and say, I have this issue at this juncture of my life, can I take guidance from it? Can I take guidance from his life? Truly, this is khair. Fitrah. I was hoping to get through 6 chapters. I've got through 1. Fitrah, a pure and natural upbringing. I'll speed things up, inshallah. If there's anybody, no, we'll wrap up, inshallah. Fitrah, a pure and natural upbringing. So again, I'll keep this short. I'll give you the main points, inshallah. Cleanliness, fitrah. What is fitrah? I'll explain it in a minute. Cleanliness in the child's body, in the child's clothing, in the child's, the way we bring the child is an integral part of faith. At-tuhuru shatrul iman. And we'll mention this, inshallah, in a minute. You want to give your children a strong and healthy upbringing. This includes the food that we provide to the child. It should be a balanced and suited diet to the child. Neither in excess nor a lack of the nourishment they require. And the most perfect approach in Islam is moderation. Islam has taught us moderation. Miqdab ibn Ma'ad Karib radiallahu ta'ala, Sahabi, he says, سمعت رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم يقول, I heard Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam say, ما ملأ آدمي وعاء شر من بطن. There is not a vessel, there is not a container that an individual fills worse than his stomach. Meaning, don't fill your children's stomach to the full. بحسب ابن آدم, it's sufficient for an individual to eat just that which keeps him upright. Right? But that doesn't mean just starve yourself and eat, that's it, 2-3 morsels. It's moderation. فإن كان لا محالة فثلث لطعامه. Take a third for your food, وثلث لشرابه, a third for your drink, وثلث لنفسه, and a third لنفسه, and a third for your breathing. And this is moderation. Moderation. Don't overeat, don't undereat. Make sure your children have nourishment which is in moderation. Abu Hurairah radiallahu ta'ala narrates from Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam, al-fitratu khamsun. Fitrah. You know, I keep saying this word fitrah, and I keep saying, what is fitrah? Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam, it's 5 main things. Al-khitan. Al-khitan. Khitan is basically circumcision for the males. So circumcising the child, and we could go into details regarding the medical benefits of circumcision, and I indicated to it last lecture as well, that the circumcision, it brings many benefits. Many benefits. Do it when they're a child. والاستحداد ونطف الإبط وقص الشارب وتقليم الأظفار, clipping the nails, trimming the moustache. ونطف الإبط, plucking the armpit hair. والاستحداد, plucking cleaning the hair of the private parts. All of these things. And Sharia doesn't shy away from these things. Sharia teaches these things. But this is about fitrah. This is about being pure. These are things seen as natural things. You can also trim, you can also shave, you can also wax. Back in the days they used to do plucking. And there's immense benefits to plucking. When you pluck itself, it pulls the root of the hair. It's very painful, by the way. If you've not done it, then don't start. If you've been shaving, stick to shaving. But it's like wax strips and stuff like that. It's painful. People ask, can we use hair removal cream? Hair removal cream is completely valid. You can use a trimmer. Some people keep a separate trimmer for their the hair that they want to remove, and a separate trimmer for their face, and etc. I wouldn't advise you to use the same. You can also shave. However, the main thing is to remain within the fitrah, the pure and natural way Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created us, that we remove these hairs, we trim the nails, we remain presentable as Muslims. To the extent that Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam says, Man kana lahu sha'run falyukrimhu. I think it's a narration of Ahmad. Man kana lahu sha'ran. An individual who has hair, falyukrimhu, he should take care of it. Right? So a believer who wants to keep lengthy hair, even the beard hair falls into this. فَلْيُكْرِمْهُ, take care of it. An individual shouldn't be somebody who somebody sees and they see. فَلْيُكْرِمْهُ, obviously within the constraints of Sharia. It doesn't mean that you grow your beard so long that somebody sees you and thinks they're about to get onto the tube and they think, not this one, I'll wait for the next one. Not like that. We keep ourselves looking clean. That somebody sees a believer and they think, yeah, he's presentable. That's how a believer is. Exercise. Amir al-Mu'mineen Umar Farooq radiallahu ta'ala used to say, علموا أولادكم السباحة والرمي ومروهم فليثبوا على الخيال وثبا. Teach your children swimming. Teach your children archery. say swimming and archery, it's exercise, it's sports. In those days, it was archery. In those days, it was swimming. You can still do swimming today. You can do whatever, right? Keep them active. Let them do exercise. And when we come onto social media, we'll discuss this, where it's not sufficient to just sit your child down with an iPad. Wallahi, it affects them. When we get to that, we'll discuss it. But just very quickly, on the iPad, let's just say you put on a 5-minute video or something. It's constantly flickering images, it's constantly changing sounds, it's constantly changing, constantly. And then you place this child in a classroom and he can't concentrate. Why? It's logical. He's been sat in front of this iPad his whole day. He's been seeing changes in images. He's been seeing changing in sounds, changing in environment. One day he's here, one day he's there, one day he's there while sat in front of this iPad. And then sit him in a classroom with the teacher speaking and he's disrupting the class. He can't focus. Of course he can't focus. And we'll look at this from a medical perspective and how it affects the child as well later on, inshallah. So we'll wrap this discussion up here. Teach them fitrah, how to urinate, how to clean themselves in the bathroom. All of these are classed as good human nature. Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam taught these ideas. Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam really emphasized these things. And don't shy away as a parent to teach them this. Wallahi, if we as parents don't teach our children, who's going to teach our children? Who's going to teach our children these things? Don't shy away from these things. Your child needs to know these things. The fiqh of breastfeeding. We're all aware that when a child is born, obviously it's incapable of chewing solids and digesting solids and all of this. And so the only way it can really consume food is through breastfeeding or through an alternative method such as bottled milk, etc. Let's get straight into it. What is the age limit for breastfeeding? There are two valid positions in the Hanafi school of thought. If anybody is of a different madhab, you can come to me later on and I'll tell you the different opinions, inshallah. Just for the sake of brevity and to keep this short, I've just mentioned the Hanafi school of thought. But of course, if there's anybody from the Maliki, Shafi'i, Hanabila, any other school of thought, contact me, I'll inshallah direct you to the opinion, inshallah. So the Hanafi school of thought has two opinions. The first one is 2 lunar years. 2 moon years, 2 lunar years. This was the position of Imam Abu Hanifa's two companions, Imam Yusuf, Imam Muhammad rahmatullahi alayhi, as well as the opinion of the Malikiyya, Shafi'iyya and Hanabila. There you are, I'll mention it. Malikiyya, Shafi'iyya, Hanabila are also of this opinion, 2 lunar years. Right? So the child is born 360 days, that's the limit. You don't breastfeed after this limit. And the second opinion is 2.5 lunar years, which is 30 months. It's the position of Imam Abu Hanifa rahmatullah alayhi himself. There's reasons for that. There's a scholarly debate. We don't want to get into that. I just want to show you the two opinions. They're both valid opinions, but the predominant opinion generally amongst the madhab seems to be 2 lunar years. 2 lunar years. After 2 years of age, scholars say avoid. The child, legally, from a legal perspective, that doesn't mean you have to breastfeed for 2 years. If the child, maybe at the age of 1.5 lunar years, maybe at the age of 1, the child, you can now wean him off this milk. And again, from mutual agreement with the parents. Parents should always take things into consideration, do mashwara with each other. And I think he's ready, I think she's ready let's move on to solids. And so, you can move the child on to solids. Some scholars are of the opinion that at the age of 2 lunar years, you should now start weaning the child off. And that's why they said 2.5 years, that within then 6 months, by then you've got the child off the milk, and now it's coming towards solids. Medically proven, I have personally read a number of articles where there's greater benefit for the child to be breastfed from the mother, because the mother tends to have an awareness of the child's needs. I'm talking from a biological perspective, etc. But other means are also permissible. And there's no Sharia doesn't say it has to be in a certain way. Sometimes there's a medical condition where the mother can't breastfeed. That's fine. There's alternative methods, inshallah, and Sharia allows that. But the time frame is the 2 years, the 2 lunar years, or the 2.5 lunar years. Questions many people ask: can somebody else breastfeed my child? Sometimes there's a sister that the mother has, or the mother goes away or something like that. She's in hospital or something like that. Somebody needs to breastfeed this child. Can somebody else breastfeed this child? Yes, somebody other than your own wife can breastfeed the child. However, it is something both the parents should agree on. Again, from the Sharia perspective, let's not go there. But from an ethical perspective, take each other's mashwara constantly. Talk to each other throughout the whole of the relationship. This period shouldn't be just The child, parents, mothers and fathers should bond over this child. Although you take advantage of this scenario where you are working together to bring this amazing human being into the world, and so agree with it. That it's not the decision of any one parent. Both of you should mutually agree that we should get this individual to breastfeed, or we should do this. You should remember, when another woman breastfeeds your child, the rules of fosterage, rada'a, are established. What does this mean? This means that, so I'll give you an example. Say I have a child, and I get a random woman. I get a random woman to breastfeed my child. So my wife has a friend, and this woman breastfeeds the child. The rules of fosterage or rada'a apply. This means that the rules of hijab have been lifted between my child and this woman. So this is like a mother to this child. So hijab, when you have to cover your face, etc., and you have to cover yourself from an ajnabi, a person who's a stranger. Now, because this woman has breastfed this child, by the way, within the period of 2 years. Within the period of 2 years. If somebody breastfeeds after 2 years, none of these rules apply, because Sharia doesn't see this as a valid breastfeeding. But within the period of 2 years, if this breastfeeding takes place and the rules of hijab are lifted, your child cannot marry this individual, right? It seems very weird for us that the child is going to marry this. It's possible in the future, when they reach maybe 30 and this woman is of 50 or something like that. It's possible. Allah knows best, but the ruling is there that when this child is breastfed from another woman, the rules of fosterage apply, which are basically hijab is lifted, they cannot marry, etc. And so it's very important that you take each other into mashwara, and you take yourselves, and that the parents have this discussion and they speak to each other that I think this individual will be suitable, right? Because long term it can prove complicating and things like that. Moreover, scholars even mention that in the case where one has a foster relationship between the child and this son, if there is a fear of fitna, then even then the rules of hijab will apply. The rules of hijab will apply. Remaining in privacy will not be permissible. In conclusion, I would say the best way to approach this, there's no hard and fast rule. Consult with each other. Have this discussion with each other. Husband and wife have the conversation, weigh the pros and cons of getting them breastfed by somebody else, and then decide. And it will be something that is jointly agreed by the both of you, inshallah. How are we doing for time? Should we continue or should we stop? Huh? Yes, we should conclude. Inshallah, we can continue. Questions, if there's any questions there.
No, it's a beautiful, and you said you've only done one of the chapters. So
I've done two now.
So where will you do the remainder?
I will continue next week. I will continue as normal, inshallah. And if it does come to the state where we might have to extend a few days, we can do that, inshallah. Yeah. But I'm open to it. I want to make sure. See, the thing is, this is a subject which I want to give it justice. And parents specifically who are turning up for this, I don't want it to be that you just come for the sake of coming, and then I'm just trying to tick boxes and say, right, I've done this. I want to make sure I give it justice. And so sometimes that requires that sometimes I have to go off on a tangent. Sometimes I have to mention something that I didn't prepare myself. Sometimes you guys come with a lot of zeal, and so something clicks in my brain that I should mention also. And so inshallah, I'm working with you guys, inshallah. So if you guys come to a stage where it's too much, Sheikh, next week, inshallah. And we can push it till next week. If you think we can carry on for a little longer, you say carry on for a little longer. Yes, I'm comfortable, inshallah. It's at the end of the day how we can benefit yourselves, and I can, inshallah, take benefit from, inshallah, creating individuals in this ummah who really are a shining beacon. And I really, may Allah accept your turning up. Is there any questions? Last week we had some good questions about Sheikh.
Well, it was the issue of eating the halal. So I've got two questions. What about street food? Because there are things that I've heard about street food and eating, off the street. What would you say?
Regarding, so the brothers asked the question, what's the approach regarding street food? Brothers, there should be tea and stuff. If any of the guys are leaving, there should be tea, inshallah. Jazakallah to Master Sahib for bringing the tea for the male side and stuff. Regarding street food, guys, again, it's difficult to give a hard and fast rule. I'll tell you why. Because person A might do halal, person B might not do halal, person C might do halal, person D might not do halal. Sometimes you ask an individual, is it halal? And they say yes. But sometimes in your heart you don't feel convinced. And you think to yourself, is it right, is it not right? And so my best advice is always be cautious. If you know the individual and you know him in life and you know, okay, this is a friend of mine and I know that it's halal, go for it. Bismillah. Right? Because you're confident that it's halal. Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam mentions in the hadith, istafti qalbak. Take the fatwa and take the ruling from your heart. But again, don't take it from here, take it from here. Because many a time, you know what, there is something dodgy in this. And wallahi, you can lie to somebody else, but you truly can't lie to yourself. You get this feeling inside yourself. And as a believer, when you have these principles and you go forward and you say to somebody, okay, I don't feel comfortable with this, right? Sometimes, for example, I'll give an example. Somebody says to you, can you come with me just to pick something from a pub? Right? Just going inside, sometimes a believer feels, okay, I don't feel comfortable doing this. Right? Istafti qalbak. In these instances, you trust yourself, you trust your gut instinct, and say no, I don't want to. And so you can't give a hard and fast ruling, right? If they say it's halal and you're convinced with their opinion that it's halal, then it's down to you to make that decision. But from a Shari'i perspective, realistically, what can you do? Can you go and scrutinize them and say, the next time you go to get your meat, I want to come with you? It's not practical. And so again, it's istafti qalbak. I would say the most cautious approach is to avoid it, unless you are 100% confident. Just 1 second, Nabi Sallallahu mentioned in the hadith, al-halalu bayyinun wal-haramu bayyinun. The halal is clear, the haram is clear. In between there's a period of grey, which is the mushtabihat. Nabi Sallallah's advice regarding the doubtful, avoid it. Because if you don't avoid it, it's very possible that you end up into haram. And so at the end of the day, you've got to ask yourself, if I don't eat one meal and I delay my food, will it really cause me such a difficulty? Can I go somewhere else to eat? Can I do you understand?
But you see, what we're not touching on is, we live in a world where we've got KFC, McDonald's, they put on halal, I think you're shying away from
no. So if you're talking about specific places...
Well, not even specific, but just, the chicken shops that are run by people, or the chicken shops that are run by, Muslim people, It's a big issue that, is the barakah there, I was listening to this series of lectures, and the brother was saying that there's a student of knowledge who was very firm in his when he'd gone to some gathering and that. So they were the other students, when he came back, they complained that this guy's got excessive zeal now. So the sheikh said, buy him some street food and see whether he remains like that. And sort of something switched off, the barakah switched off that he got from somewhere else, you see. So this is the thing. I mean, yes, we could do it out of necessity, but is it something that we should partake regularly or just try and limit?
So I understand what you're saying. There are two ideas here. Yeah. Idea number one is it has to be halal. For a Muslim, it has to be halal. But what you're saying is interesting. What you're saying is barakah, from the aspect of barakah and blessing. Yeah. So, okay, I completely understand what you're saying. So, the food made in the home is made with the objective that you want to feed the family. Right? Now, these things have an effect. When the woman is in the home, when the man is in the home, and they are cooking the food, and they are with Bismillah, there's this special barakah to it. But when an individual who is making the food from outside, he's in this concept of business. I want to make money, and these things have an effect on the food. It won't make the food haram necessarily, but it has an effect. Everything has its effect. I go as far as saying that when you read the Qur'an, the letter alif, if the letter alif has a qaf before it, which is full mouth, the alif becomes full mouth, qa. And if there's a kaf before it, which is empty mouth, the alif becomes empty mouth, ka. Everything has an effect. Even letters take an effect. And so the objective that somebody has in mind for making this food that will have an effect as well. When there's dhikr taking place and the food is being made, and there's muhabba and all of these things will have a spiritual effect. And what that story you mentioned, it's exactly this concept. That there is, of course, so much more barakah when the food is made with the objective of nourishing your children, with the objective of feeding the children, with the objective of bringing up pious individuals in the home. But when the food is made to make money and to make this, and so I wouldn't say it's haram, but I would say, of course, moderation. Moderation. Know that, sometimes you want to treat the family. Sadaqah, again, that concept of sadaqah. And so take them out for a meal. Right? But again, where you choose to take them out for a meal, take them out to a meal where you can control as much of the variables and the factors that you can, inshallah. So again, I'm not saying don't go out to eat, I'm saying in moderation. Priority should be halal. There is a special barakah in halal. You want to add on that, nurun ala nur, you want to add a bit of, make up to this barakah of halal, make it that it's made with this intention that, I want it to be made with this love and this affection, this muhabba and this religiosity behind it, inshallah. And there's a nur inside of that, inshallah.
And the second point is, it stated that, I think it was, is it Imam Nawawi, he didn't eat of the things in the city that he was in Damascus or Syria, because of the waqf there. I think the people were a bit lax with their, so he didn't eat. And so that's Imam Nawawi. We're not of that level at all. Definitely. But I think there was his father as well. There was some issue with his father. But the issue is with us and our friends, and the people that we, outwardly we're Muslim, but the inward aspect might be something different. How much should you peer into that?
Yeah, so one of our shuyukh, one of our asatidha, they would mention this, that can you imagine going to one of your friends' houses for a dawat, and you get to the house, and you're about to sit down for food, and you say to him, okay, can I just ask, is the food halal? Like, imagine saying that to your friend. He'll look at you like, do you want to get out? I'm a Muslim. And again, there's this concept where the friends that you keep. Al-mar'u ala dini khalilih. You are on the path and the religion of your friends and the methodology of your friends. And generally you'll know that this friend, of course, his food will be halal. Of course his food's going to be halal, and so you don't need to go into that detail. Certain times food would come to Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam from the Sahaba, and Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam had confidence in Sahaba. And so Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam says, Ana atqa, I am the most pious from amongst you. Right? But then he says that it's the fadl of Allah. And so Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam never used to inquire from the Sahaba, is this halal or something like that. Generally speaking, from the Sahaba he trusted. And so your close kind of family and your friends that you are aware of, again, istafti qalbak. You are confident on their religiosity. You are confident that they will be eating from the halal. You can partake of that. But if there is doubt in your friends and stuff, there's ways you have to now be smart about it. Maybe you need to educate them. And so innocently you can send them food and say, yeah, mashallah, we did a dabiha just recently. And you can talk about the masail of dabiha. Because again, it's not about showing them I'm more religious than you, or you're more religious than me, or you're less religious. It's not about putting an individual down. It's about how we can all work together to get into Jannah. Wallahi, there's nothing greater than that. That it's not because I'm more pious than you and my household is like this. You've got to work together. And the best thing, keep the friends and keep the company that you're confident with. And if that isn't your company, work on them and assist them in reaching the same goals and the same ideologies that we have, inshallah. Make sense, inshallah? Any other questions? May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accept our gathering. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant us children who are from amongst those who Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is pleased with. And Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, we can present these children on the Day of Judgment and say, this was my addition to the ummah. This is what I gave into the ummah. And Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam is proud of us, inshallah. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant us the ability to act upon what was said and heard. Subhanallah wa bihamdihi, subhanakallahumma wa bihamdik, ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk. From the sister's side, if there are any questions, write them down or text them to the Balham Mosque number, or you can even email them in to events@balhammosque.org or anything like that. Inshallah, we'll have a box or something like that placed for the sisters they can send in, and we'll also try and have a live kind of feed If there's any questions from the sister side, they can type it up and we'll see, inshallah. We're still working on some of the infrastructure. So may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accept your patience. Subhanallah wa bihamdihi, subhanakallahumma wa bihamdik. Ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk. Assalamu alaikum. Jazakallah.
جزاك الله خير.
Jazakallah.
جزاك الله خير.